You guys, they did it. The rabbit has been saved. Easy 10 out of 10 move from Craig Mazin. So, was the episode good? Yeah, it was pretty great. We're kind of back to the first couple of episodes in terms of adaptation where very little was changed from the game to the show. And this comes with good reason because this portion of the game was pretty amazing and translates really well for the show. Now, obviously there are some action beats that were removed from the game, like Ellie and David fighting off hordes of undead, and Joel basically killing the entire town. But I think what was retained was perfect for the show. The amount of dramatic buildup was balanced out really well with the action, and some of the best scenes from the game made its way into the show, like Joel interrogating the men for the location of the town. Joel is not messing around, and seeing him without hesitation melds right back into his more savage past self to find Ellie shows how much he cares for her. That's why him torturing these people in this scene kind of excites you because it ignites his drive to find Ellie. Him doing these horrific acts ironically expresses how much he loves Ellie. Which this essentially leads into my favorite aspect of this particular story arc, where it's set up that Joel is going to be the savior, but Ellie is the one to overcome all of the conflict. It makes her character significantly more important within the story because we see her succumb to extreme violent actions, and she's able to take care of herself. I adore the writing here from how clever it was for Ellie to overcome David. Through quick thinking and being smart, the thing that ironically saves her and buys her enough time is her bite wound. Throughout the show, she has been told not to tell anyone about it, but the irony in that her telling these people about it saves her is extra juicy. And RIP video game Joel. The amount of respect coming from the creators in terms of the source material and casting legacy actors from the games is really nice. But going back to the climax, in an outstanding move by Neil Druckmann, he simultaneously nails a big dramatic point for Ellie's character, while also defying set expectations within storytelling in which the main protagonist saves the day. That's why this segment of the story is so genius because it works so well on both of these levels. We are led to believe that Joel will save Ellie through him interrogating people, just for it to be more surprising when Ellie's the one to kill David. Throughout this sequence, by utilizing parallel editing, the creators set up a dual perspective of Joel and Ellie, with the assumption that Joel will intervene at a crucial point. However, that crucial point isn't to save her physically and instead emotionally. She just brutally killed another human being who was trying to rape her, and she is utterly broken. The only person in the world to save her from this mental space is her now surrogate father, and the moment Joel calls her his baby girl, it cements this emotional bond even more.
It's okay, baby girl. I got you.
This dramatic payoff in their long separation coming to a close here is immensely satisfying and is even more powerful due to what Ellie just did. Bella Ramsey over the past 2 episodes on their own puts her into the legendary status for actors. She has masterfully portrayed the crazy lows and highs of the character, and every emotional beat is done without fault. I came into the show expecting to be blown away by Pedro Pascal as Joel, but I ended up getting floored by Bella Ramsey's performance even more. Which doesn't mean that Pedro is doing a bad job by any means. The acting is just on a completely different level overall in comparison to other shows. Looking more specifically at David, I think his adaptation from the game is also perfect. I love the slow progression throughout the episode as we learn different reasons as to why this guy is so messed up. Because it starts out with him seemingly being a good guy, but as we peel away the layers, he becomes more and more like the devil. He's a manipulative, unfair, cruel, disgusting, and vile person, and seeing each one of these traits reveal themselves was very fun throughout the episode. He's a very engaging character because as a viewer, we need to see past this facade that David is putting on to see his true intentions. Him talking to Ellie while she was in the cage is a great example of this. The entire time he's being pretty vague and is clearly lying to Ellie to win her trust. Then another one of my favorite scenes was the dinner scene where they were making the stew and they brought in the quote-unquote deer meat. At this point, we assume this is actually deer meat because the scene prior showed us David and video game Joel bringing back the deer, only to reveal that they walk in with the deer as they are serving the food. It cleverly hits you with the oh shit, that is not deer meat, and it can only be something else. Just a very smart way to communicate to the audience what the meat is without being obvious. They do clearly confirm that later on, but that was more because they wanted Ellie to find out they were cannibals. Then also the small touch where David has a much bigger plate of food in comparison to everyone else portrays how much he exploits his power. You guys get to ration while I don't. These details within the script that you can understand without them blatantly telling you are hallmarks of what makes a script so great. Looking at Scott Shepherd, who plays David, I think he did a good job at being a more chill, warm, and inviting person to begin with. It makes his character so unsettling because we know that he's the villain due to his juxtaposition to our main characters, and we desperately try to figure out what is wrong with him. He's good at hiding his intentions, which in of itself is also really terrifying. For a one-episode villain, this is a masterful example in writing and acting as to making a compelling antagonist in a short amount of time. Just very impressive overall. Going into one complaint that I've been seeing people say a lot that will probably boil over here is the overall lack of infected in comparison to the game. Now, this doesn't bother me because the show takes a realistic angle in how it tells its story. Joel tells us early on that there are basically no infected out in the middle of nowhere in these forest regions because logically, these are very rural areas. If people barely lived out here before the outbreak, then why would it make sense for there to be a ton of infected here? Along with being able to survive in these harsh cold terrains that even humans have to take shelter in. This isn't like The Walking Dead where there are randomly hordes of zombies in the forest at all times. In that show, it's an obvious contrivance that the fans naturally accept so they can see more zombies. However, for The Last of Us, it's more grounded in how they treat the mechanics of the world. Neil and Craig want to make an immersive and realistic post-apocalyptic show, not a flat-out zombie show. This includes having threats that are both infected and human. So it makes the most sense to have infected as a threat when they're in cities, and when they aren't, it makes more sense to use humans. Because I know zombie fanatics will hate to hear this, but the human characters and villains have more depth than zombies. That's just how it is. It's inherently more engaging to follow the humans, and although you can create some outstanding zombie sequences with rich tension and action, there's a lot more variety in terms of what humans can offer. And a reason why those zombie sequences like in episode 5 hit so well is because they are used in moderation. Also, it's not like we're deprived of zombies. They've shown up in half of the episodes so far, and some of the coolest sequences included them. Using them more strategically in the narrative increases their threat and lethality, and overall makes them more menacing when they do show up. I also keep seeing people say that they hate how a character always dies when an infected is around, and I'd argue that's a good thing because they retain their danger factor. I want to be scared and tensed up when the infected are on screen, and for it to not be like a shooting gallery like in The Walking Dead. A couple of the other episode-specific complaints I've seen were the fact that Ellie was let go so easily in the beginning, and the ending feeling weird because the town felt non-existent. For the first one, David's intentions were pretty clear, and he wanted to track Ellie back to where they were hiding, on top of him probably forming an attraction to Ellie in this time. So that makes complete sense. For the ending, it doesn't bother me that much that the whole town wasn't present. I feel like focusing primarily on David was a lot better than having Joel kill dozens of people. Along with him being in a pretty rough state, so it'd be equally illogical for him to take on that many people. But I can buy the fact that the town wasn't alerted since Joel essentially wasn't around for that long. On top of the building Ellie was in was not showing much smoke externally. Also, the town's overall strength is already dwindling, and it seemed like David took his strongest people with their gun supply to fight Joel and lost. So even though the ending in this regard is changed, I don't think it hurts the overall quality of the episode. You don't really need to have Joel fight through all these people because the dramatic emphasis is primarily put on Ellie's shoulders, which she obviously delivers in spades. This section of the story is about Ellie's independence and ability to take care of herself against insurmountable odds. That's why it resonates so well because the underdog conflict within this episode is so strong. Ellie can't rely on Joel, so it makes the obstacle she has to overcome that much more palpable. And even Joel having to take on the Raiders by himself was intense, given how bad of a condition he was in. Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann consistently deliver scenes with so much suspense and weight that the show always feels enjoyable. The grounded and realistic nature of the show also helps us because the writers don't introduce any bullshit into the script to cheat the conflict. It's just so refreshing having the show, and even their attention to detail and authenticity of the environment elevates the script. Like, these actors were getting rolled by the cold in this episode. Poor Ellie face-planting into the snow was just, oof, feels bad, man. I'm really excited going to the final episode because if these past episodes are this great, then just wait and see what the finale has in store for you, because it's going to be absolutely wild. Thank you for watching, and let me know what you thought about episode 8 of The Last of Us.